Alrighty. Um, I think we're live. Um, Maybe we'll get a confirmation if we're live.
Live.
Alrighty.
Nice.
Welcome everybody to the Infinite Space Bazaar Hackathon workshop. For today's workshop, we got an amazing DevRel at Celestia Lab, Josh Stein. He's going to go over an interesting topic. How do you build with OP Stack with Celestia underneath? Um, Before we get started, I just want to remind everyone the hackathon is 45 days. It ends on May 17th, and there's 100K in prizes for the main tracks, and there's a lot more in prizes for the bounties. So be sure to check it out at bazaar.celestia.org. And yeah, let's get started, guys. Good morning. I'll hand it off to Josh.
Yeah, GM everybody. Thank you for coming in this workshop. As Yaz said, thank you for the introduction, Yaz. We'll be going over an introduction to OP Stack with Celestia underneath. So the workshop structure, first we're going to do an introduction to Celestia just to refresh our brains. Then we'll do a section on what a rollup is and why you should deploy one. The next thing we'll do is an introduction to OP Stack with Celestia underneath, and we'll go through deploying our own or using an existing rollup, because there are some test nets that you can use without having to actually deploy your own rollup, just to get the feel for things to see if that's really what you want to do. And the last thing we'll do is deploy a contract to the rollup. Lastly, we'll have a Q&A discussion. So go ahead and get started. So what is Celestia? If you're here, you probably already know, but Celestia is the first modular blockchain network that makes it easy for anyone to securely launch their own blockchain. This is made possible by data availability sampling, which we'll get into a little bit later. But this basically allows everyone to be able to sample the chain. And the more people that do that, the more block space we can have, and therefore the more rollups we can have that all share a common layer that is Celestia for security. So now that we've talked about Celestia and building rollups on top of it, it's probably a good idea to define what a rollup is. And a rollup is just a blockchain that outsources one of its components to a separate chain. I feel like a lot of the times we talk about rollups, they're almost in their own world where we think of them as a different thing than a blockchain, but at the end of the day, they are just a blockchain with a little bit of a different design than we're used to. And we can think of a rollup as a blockchain with the superpowers of scalability, efficiency, and in the case of using Celestia for DA, verifiability by all. And more specifically, since we're talking about OP Stack in this workshop, what is an OP Stack rollup? And an OP Stack rollup is a blockchain that is posting data to Celestia instead of as call data on Ethereum. So in the normal case of the OP Stack, which is what is used for Optimism and many other chains now, the OP batcher in the OP Stack is used to post data to Ethereum as call data. Then OP node reads it back. But in this case, Celestia is the place where we're sending the OP batcher commitments, and OP node is reading those from Celestia instead of Ethereum. And really, it just makes it faster and cheaper for the users without sacrificing security. So I guess you're also wondering why deploy a rollup? Now that we know what it is, why do we want to end up on this leaderboard? You can see on Selenium, which is Celestia Block Explorer, there are, I think, 9 or 10 chains, maybe just 9 on there right now. And a lot of these are using the OP Stack. Some of them aren't. But yeah, why would you want to do that on your own? So if you deploy a rollup, the end goal or the end state is that it will be cheaper for users. It will be verifiable by all. With running a light node, you can actually verify the chain yourself instead of running really big infrastructure like a full node on another chain or even a full node on Celestia. This is something that you can actually do on your phone and even on an iPhone now. Another thing about rollups is that they're scalable. We've seen a lot of L2s on Ethereum, and the prices are very cheap on those. But once you continue to scale and make modifications for your rollup to be more efficient and more cost effective, the prices that users are paying goes down quite a lot. The third part here is that rollups are customizable. So we're not going to get too much into it in this workshop, but one of the best things about rollups is that you can add different precompiles and basically customizations in the way that the chain that you're running on top of whatever the base layer is work better for your use case. And this is kind of where we go in the direction of running app chains and things like that. Lastly, rollups are secured by the base layer. So in the case of settling to Ethereum and posting data to Celestia, that's both secured by Ethereum in this case and Celestia for data availability. So I want to go in a little deeper on how these are cheaper for users. So on the left side, we have an L2 without Celestia DA doing an ERC 721 mint. And at the time, it cost about in ETH, about $2.57. And then an L2 with Celestia DA cost around 47 cents. Now, this is all dependent on kind of the gas prices at the time. But if we scale even further and we do a layer 3, which would be a rollup on top of an existing rollup, so a blockchain on a blockchain on a blockchain, we have an example from Syndicate where they're running a frame chain. And frame chain is on top of base, built with OP stack. And yeah, the savings were basically exponential. Like it saved the entirety of the gas that would have been spent if all of the minting and storing data and new contracts that were created would have been done on an existing Ethereum mainnet. So it's literally less than 1 cent for, I don't know how many transactions, but $321,000 of gas that would have been spent on Ethereum. I also do want to ask if anyone in the chat has questions, please feel free to share them. We'll get to those later. We can always jump back to any of these slides. So going deeper into that frame chain example, we can see that minting a token would cost about $6 on Ethereum. It would cost, it looks like less than 100 millionth of a cent or something like that. On storing data would cost about $13, and it's exponentially lower on an L3. And deploying a contract would be pretty much in the same direction. Now, the benefit of this is that instead of users having to pay $5 to $10 to $15 to do any sort of interaction on your chain, it gets to the point where this is easy, like basically free. And it isn't really free, like it costs, I don't know, going back still less than a cent, but this enables you to like really reduce the prices for your users. And at the end of the day, reach the point where these transactions actually don't cost that much or anything for your users. So I think often when people think about Celestia, and they're coming from the EVM world, at first for me especially, I didn't really understand like what all of the Cosmos stuff meant, and I kind of felt like that meant that I couldn't build on Celestia, and I've come to realize that Celestia is so, I guess, customizable that you can either use an existing Cosmos SDK framework, or even, I guess, like another VM, uh, I guess we'll leave that open ended. You can build anything on Celestia. So the best thing I want to bring it back. Deploying an OP stack rollup provides a really similar experience to EVM developers that they're used to, and you don't really have to think too much about Celestia because that's just the place where data is getting posted. And assuming the integration is like the OP stack integration or like the Arbitrum integration, the end experience for the developer and the end experience for the users is going to be the same. So there's a lot of different ways, or 3 different ways to deploy or use an OP stack rollup. The first one would be to deploy from source on your own. And I would note that you would definitely need some DevOps experience in order to do this. If you're curious about doing that yourself, you can head to the Celestia docs at docs.celestia.org and look in the developers category and learn how to deploy an OP stack rollup yourself. The second way, and probably the easiest way to actually deploy your own rollup, is to use a rollup as a service provider like Caldera, Conduit, or Gelato, and others to come. And the third way would be to use an existing OP stack testnet. So right now we have 2 testnets that are running. The first one is hosted by Caldera, and this is Bub's testnet. This is the original one that we had back when the integration first came up. And what you can do on there is play around, use the faucet, deploy some contracts on your own, and not have to manage any of the infrastructure yourself. So this is like the first and easiest way to get started with no friction. The next one is the Raspberry testnet, which is hosted by Gelato. And you can do the same thing here as with Bubs. And in the bottom right, you can see the bridge. So also, instead of using faucet, you can see that bridging from Sepolia, for example, to the OP Raspberry testnet, it works the same as any other rollup that you might have used in the past. And for some examples on how actually like easy this really is, you can see that deploying a new rollup on Caldera, you select your stack. In this case, we're choosing Optimism Bedrock, which is OP stack. We're going to do a testnet and use Ethereum as the native gas token. You can also customize your gas token if you want. And then next we'll select a data availability layer. And the next example we have is with Conduit. It's going to give you a similar experience where you select your framework, you select your settlement layer, you select where you want your DA to be done, and whether or not you have a testnet or mainnet, and literally click to deploy the rollup. So I think in the past few years, we've come a long way in not only the integrations that we have available, but the experience for the end user to actually make it as easy to deploy a smart contract, or make it as easy to deploy a rollup as it is a smart contract. And then next option is with Gelato. In this case, you're going to choose the framework and DA layer, and then the Gelato team will help you set it up. I think self-serve will be available at some point. So once you have that set up, this example is a Conduit rollup. You can actually see the logs of your batcher and proposer and sequencer. You'll be given an RPC URL similarly to if you were to make an account on like an existing RPC provider, you'd get these for whatever chain you're using. But Conduit does everything for you. Same with Caldera and Gelato. You also get a WebSocket connection, as well as the Block Explorer and Bridge. And yeah, we're going to go through shortly and see all of this in action. So this is an example deposit from Sepolia to the L2 rollup. It takes about like 2 minutes maximum for that to go through. And once you have that deposited on your L2, you can go ahead and start playing around. So I'll stop here before we get to some live demo and do some questions. If you have any from the chat. Nice. What do I like most about OP Stack? I honestly would say that it's just been really wild to see how easy it is to deploy an OP Stack chain at this point in time. And the coolest part for me, or what I like the most, is just, I guess like it goes with, it's kind of applies to any sort of scaling solution, but the fact that the cost for the end user gets to the point where, like personally, I think we really want all these chains to get to, where people are not paying like multiple dollars for transactions, especially on sending, just straight up sending funds. But yeah, I don't have a great answer for that. But the ease of deployment is something that across the board I think is really fascinating to me. Actually don't know the cost for a rollup on Gelato mainnet. I can tell you, I think Conduit, for example, is, oh, actually don't know. But yeah, I would reach out to those, or the rollup as a service providers, if you do want to do that on mainnet. Conduit, I know, has a discount code for this month for people in the ISB. And Caldera, I think, lets you run 2 rollups as testnets for free right now. And yeah, with that, we'll go ahead and get to the next portion of this. So I made a, like, I misspoke a few seconds ago, but I was actually just kind of kidding on April Fool's, that we want to make it as easy to deploy a smart contract as it is to deploy a blockchain. This is the backwards version of making it as easy to deploy a blockchain as it is a smart contract. But I think we've actually gotten to that point where the experience on something like Conduit or Caldera or Gelato or Gateway FM coming up is pretty much identical to like deploying something on Third Web. And Third Web is used to deploy smart contracts, marketplaces, like the full stack of applications that you can put on top of a blockchain. But it's actually like, I don't actually know which one's easier now. Like deploying on Conduit takes 1 click, and deploying on Third Web takes 1 click. So I think we've actually gotten to the point where it is as easy to deploy a blockchain as it is a smart contract. So now that we're done with that introduction, we're going to go ahead and actually deploy a rollup and a smart contract on it. We'll be starting out with an example. We're going to go ahead and deploy one on Caldera. So this is Caldera. You can get to the dashboard by going to caldera.xyz. And in order to get started, we're going to just click to deploy. So we'll do a testnet with Optimism Bedrock. We're going to use ETH as a native gas token. We'll use Celestia as a DA layer. And we'll do, call it OP Stack Workshop L2. And all we need to do here is, maybe we're not going to deploy this all the way through. No, we're good. Nice. So there's a $1 fee just to make sure that I can, if I keep this running, I can pay for it. So it's going to take about 15 minutes for this to be deployed. And we're going to go ahead and actually jump over to one that I've deployed with Conduit already that's already set up. We can come back here to check it out when that's done deploying. So I have a rollup here that is with Conduit and OP Stack. It is deployed posting data to Celestia and settling on Sepolia. So this is on mainnet Ethereum, well, not mainnet, but the L1 Ethereum Sepolia, not one of the L2s. On the left, or on the terminal view here, we can see that it looks like our chain is at around 288,000 blocks. It's been going since last week. We can check out the batcher that is collecting all of its blocks, rolling them up, and then posting commitments to Celestia. So yeah, we can see some successful postings. We can also see the proposer and the sequencer. But most importantly, as a user, we can see the information, like the chain name, the chain ID, the framework, settlement layer, DA layer, all on the right side here. And also the rollup config. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to my wallet. It's already done. It will prompt you in MetaMask or your other EVM wallet when you decide to do this yourself. And if you want to deploy to mainnet, there's also an option to upgrade that. And the same thing would apply on another rollup as a service provider. One thing we can demo real quickly is bridging in from Sepolia. So I'm going to go ahead and connect my wallet. And we're going to switch to Sepolia. And I'll go ahead and deposit 1 ETH. And as with most bridges go, you're going to just click some boxes to acknowledge that you know what you're doing. So we're going to go ahead and confirm that transaction. And then we can monitor the progress here. I'll actually just come back and check this in a few minutes. So we have that bridge transaction going. That's going to give me some funds to be able to deploy on this rollup. And we can also go check out the block explorer. So in this case, I haven't made the name very pretty, but you'll get your custom block explorer with the name of your chain, where you can see that about every other second we have a block coming in. As with on the dashboard, your users can actually add this chain information if they want. I'm going to wait on switching networks for now. But you can see deposits, and mine's still going through, but once that lands, we'll see it in this this dashboard. I haven't made any withdrawals yet, but withdrawing from an L2 to an L1, anything that happens in that fashion will show up here. We're not doing a tour of a block explorer. So yeah, you get a full block scout instance when you deploy with Conduit. I think Caldera does the same thing. And we can go ahead and check in on that deposit, and it looks like it's confirmed. So on our block explorer, this is for my local chain. We can see that that deposit was successful. And we're going to go ahead and just see that here as well. So now what we can do now that I have a lot of jumping around here. So I have one more ETH in my wallet now, and this is on the rollup. So what we can do is actually deploy a contract onto this rollup now. Go ahead and close some of this out. Before I get too far, we do have DA being posted to Celestia, and If we look on the Mocha testnet for Celestia, we can see that every few minutes, so 36 seconds ago, we had a blob that was posted to the namespace for this rollup. And if you want, you can always inspect those. But this is where the data is being posted by OP Batcher. You can actually look at the blob itself if you really want. It was just posted, so it might take a second. But yeah, the blob will load eventually. Cool. So now that we have the rollup running, we've checked out our namespace, we've checked out our Explorer. We're going to jump back to this real quickly. So yeah, it looks like this is still deploying. It will take a little bit of time, but we're going to get the same thing out of this. One thing I like about Caldera is they have a status page. So you can see the status of your rollup similarly to checking like pretty much any other service out there that you're used to. And you'll also be given a hub page that's a public page for your chain, a block explorer, and a bridge. I actually don't know if there's a hub page for these chains. Yeah, interesting. Cool. So the next thing we'll do is I'm going to go to ThirdWeb. So ThirdWeb is a platform that has pre-built and audited contracts. And if you're a developer, it has there's an SDK that you can use to deploy these contracts. If you're just kind of getting your feet wet and want to not write your own contracts and just use things that are audited, I think this is like a really good way to go. But also, if you don't want to spend time in your terminal, don't want to spend too much time in your code editor, you can actually deploy contracts with ThirdWeb with no code and basically click to deploy. So in this case, I also want to show you that you can find the Raspberry OP Celestia Raspberry testnet by Gelato in here. You can also find Bub's testnet. Just make sure to use the one that's not deprecated. This happened because Gurley was deprecated, so we switched over to Sepolia. And again, this is hosted by Caldera. I'm already on my rollup on my wallet, so I'm good to go. We can see the balance from my deposit in there. And what we're going to do is deploy a silly smart contract to get started. So we're going to use an addition drop. The addition drop is an ERC 1155 standard. This is basically a semi-fungible token where there is one version of something and then many copies of it. We go ahead and click deploy now. We're going to be using a picture of a happy baby. And we'll make the symbol baby for fun. All right, so GM again, everybody. We're going to go ahead and deploy this contract. So the first transaction is to be deploying the contract. And the second transaction will be a signature to add this to our dashboard. So the contract's been deployed. Now we're just confirming that we're going to add this contract to our ThirdWeb dashboard. And once that's done, I think it'll refresh itself. Sweet. So now we see the happy baby contract is deployed successfully. Now we need to add an NFT to the contract itself. So this contract actually supports like multiple NFTs or tokens, I guess. They're not actually NFTs because they're not they're semi-fungible, the SFTs. I don't know. You can add in some background color and external URL for OpenSea. The thing is, these aren't going to show up on OpenSea. I don't think you can add custom chains there yet. And we'll go ahead and set the mood of this baby to happy. Next thing we'll do is lazy mint the NFT. And once that's done, we're going to set some claim conditions. So that was the first NFT was successfully minted. Now we're going to set the permission or the claim conditions for this. Yeah, okay, cool. So inside the token, there's a tab for claim conditions. And basically this is where you can set up your allow list. You can set up your like pre-claim or pre-minting phases and all that fun stuff. So we're going to go ahead and do public. So anyone can mint it. We don't really need to give it a special name or anything. This is the naming is for your own understanding. And we're going to say that people can mint unlimited for 0 ETH, basically just paying the gas fee. Once we save those, it's going to update the contract itself. So now that we've done this, we can actually go ahead and mint one after that transaction goes through. I keep checking in on the Caldera rollup every few seconds here. All right, awesome. So the claim phase is currently active. There are unlimited happy babies to be minted. The default price is free, and the limit per wallet is unlimited. So in the case that we want to add some more strict rules, we can do an allow list and basically add a snapshot of people that we can allow to claim the NFT. All right, the easiest way to test this out is to use the embed down at the bottom. And we're going to go ahead and mint a free GM from the Happy Baby contract. And we're going to confirm that. Now, to see the composability of all of this, I'm also going to add that to my wallet. The other one you're seeing is a test contract. So we're pasting the contract address from Third Web. We're entering the token ID of 0, as you can see over here, and we're going to import that. So now I have 2, and I don't know which one's which. So 1 second. Go ahead and remove that. All right, so let's try that again. I'm going to import that contract address, the token 0, and now we have that happy baby. So as you would see on like any other rollup or on Ethereum, we can see this in our MetaMask wallet, but the data that's on the data from the chain itself is being posted to Celestia, instead of call data on Ethereum. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the demo. I'm going to go ahead and check on this again, but I don't. Oh, okay. So we're getting close. The status page in the Block Explorer is still being set up. But the one thing I wanted to show here is actually the hub page. So this is going to look really similar to the Bubs testnet page with the overview of chain details, mainly including the chain ID, your HTTP RPC, and your WebSockets RPC. Also, we're going to have a faucet here. So if I go and pull my address, I can enter my address and request some funds on that new rollup, but it's still not set up. So that was a little too early to do that. We're also going to get a wallet connection here, so we can add that chain to our wallet. And then the status page in Block Explorer will show up here shortly. I might jump back to that after we do some Q&A. I want to go back through just to show you on the smart contract side, there's a lot of different options. If you played around with Bub's testnet and minted something on the marketplace, I used the Third Web marketplace contract and the Third Web front end for this. You can also do a normal NFT drop for an ERC 721 and many other options such as like staking ERC 21s. You can do kind of like loot box packs, which are pretty neat. And yeah, there's plenty of options there if you want to explore. But since we're here for rollups, we'll go to questions for anything around the OP stack that you're curious about. That's a good question. I mean, yes, but I'm curious to kind of know a little more, like not out of the box. I guess the way that you would permission this is you would only share like your chain information with the people that you want to use it. I'd say like on the actual implementation of that, like on the OP stack itself, that might be a case where you want to actually modify the rollup, maybe doing different precompiles. And yeah, I guess I don't really know too much how that would be done, but yes, it can be done.
All right. Yo, Josh, that was pretty cool, especially using the Third Web smart contract to easily deploy the NFT contract. I thought it was
Yeah,
pretty neat, like all in-house
blown
kind
my
of
mind.
stuff.
Yeah, no click deploy a rollup and a contract. Look at that.
Yeah. One-click deploy, one-click deploy a rollup, one-click deploy a contract. Easy peasy. I guess one of the things I want to ask is, given all the resources you went over today, what a cool thing do you think people can take advantage of using, the OP Stack rollup deployment and Third Web? You showed an NFT mint contract. Is there any other cool thing they can do on the application side with their OP Stack?
Yeah, for sure. I guess starting at like for me, like art and digital ownership was kind of what got me hooked on crypto or like blockchains as a whole. And yeah, I think like an easy example is deploying a marketplace. And then for that marketplace, you could deploy your own NFT contracts for that. Actually, I want to go ahead and we'll peek around here. Yeah, you could have people stake their NFTs if you're into that. We're going to go ahead and view all the popular ones. You could do a membership token for a DAO, for example. I know there's like a lot of meme coins right now, but I feel like we need to bring the DAOs back. You could deploy your own token, which I guess we can go ahead and do one just for fun. Yeah. So it's just as easy as setting a name for it, maybe giving it an image or something, and then doing the deployment. I guess on the rollup side, is there anything else that you're curious about there?
I believe you went over both Caldera Conduit, right?
Yep.
Nice. And both of them are like great option for people to use for deploying an OP stack.
Yeah, I would say those are like the two that are self-serve right now. I might be wrong, but I think, yeah, for gelato, you have to contact the team and they'll help you set it up and then give you the information that we're seeing in these dashboards.
Okay.
And then there are a few other rollup as a service providers that are like in the works, and I guess will be on our website soon.
Nice. Well, I
But yeah,
mean,
I wanted to real quickly see. It's been, I think, about 15 minutes or
Mhm.
20 minutes since we started this, and we have the hub page is live. There's also a status page that will show us how long a rollup's been online, which you can also, wow, nice. You can have people subscribe for updates as well. And we also have the block explorer is live, or sorry, the bridge is also live.
That's insane.
So yeah, if we want to bridge from Sepolia to our OP Stack Workshop L2, we can do that.
And Sepolia is the L1 part, right? It's on the L1 side. Okay. One of the questions I think by Leslien was, how do you bridge from one rollup to another rollup? I don't know if that's provided by Caldera or Conduit, but I think the normal solution would be Hyperlane or Polymer, right?
Yeah, I think so. I guess like out of the box, if you deployed 2 rollups right now, you couldn't do that. The roundabout way would be to just like withdraw and then send it to the other rollup. But yeah, Hyper and Polymer are probably the best way to go about that.
Yeah. And for people tuning in, we do have a Hyperlane and Polymer workshops coming up. I need to double check what time they are or what day. Um, let's see.
While you're doing that, I'm looking through the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the Teletubbies do have the same colors as ISB. Nice catch there. But yeah, it looks.
So we have the permissionless interoperability and deployment workshop by York from Hyperlane on April 12th at 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. And then we have, I think, the Polymer one will be on April 19th. It's called Connecting Ethereum L2 Interoperability Through Polymer. So I think that one's also relevant for a lot of people related to the question asked. Nice. What is something, Jacques? Okay, one question I want to ask is, given that you're like deep in the modular ecosystem, like a builder and stuff, for any new builder, what is something you wish you knew when you got started on your modular journey that you want to impart on new developers?
That's when I started. It's less that like something I wish I knew, and it's more that something I'm happy that exists now. For all of the people that are in EVM world, is that when I started, I was mainly working with Cosmos SDK chains and Rollkit. But for me, as someone who kind of entered this world with like in using Ethereum, using Solana, but mainly like on the Ethereum side, I think it's really cool that we have these options available for people to deploy their own rollup, like just as easily as I deployed that token on Third Web. I think that's like amazing in terms of progress and kind of bridging the gap for people who like hear about Celestia, know that it's a Cosmos chain, and wonder like, where do I get started? I think it's really cool that we kind of have this entry point now for people working on the EVM.
Yeah, and like the cool thing about it is, for a lot of people, like, based on what you went over today, if I'm coming from the EVM world, I just need to know that what Celestia is used for, from my rollups point of view, is scalability and ease of deployment. And I don't need to worry too much about like all the different moving parts in Celestia. I can just one click
Yeah.
deploy a rollup as usually deploying a smart contract, and then one click deploy a smart contract, and voila.
Yeah, as easy it is to deploy rollup.
Yeah.
So yeah, on that note, I guess like the thing that I kind of wish I understood the way that you just explained it is that like the way that I kind of would like analogize Celestia now is like it's very similar. Like the way that you use Celestia to deploy a rollup is really similar to how you use Alchemy to like use an RPC endpoint or Anchor or like QuickNote or something like that. So like when I go onto one of those providers and make an account and use my RPC from them to build my application on an existing L1, it's like pretty much abstracted away from me enough where I don't really need to think about what's actually going on. I just know that it works. So for the case of Celestia, I think that's like, yeah, the thing that it's taken some time for me to understand, but it's basically like the infrastructure that allows you to make those rollups and to scale those rollups. But you don't really have to know too much about everything that's happening behind the scenes or underneath, rather.
It's kind of like if I want to deploy an instance on AWS, I don't need to know exactly what they're doing at the data center. Like,
Yeah.
I probably have some requirement, like I need this specific instance for for the
Yeah.
kind of traffic I'm getting and stuff. But other than that, I don't need to know. Um, like the stack of servers, how did that all work? How did it all connect together? I have a specific
Yeah.
requirement for the kind of OS I want, the kind of uh, hardware requirements, if you will, that I want, and then I click and I deploy with AWS, then I can deploy my application on it. And that's kind of what Celestia is doing. It's like cloud computing for Web3 and scalability while keeping the costs really cheap.
Yeah. And I guess like the way that you just described deploying one of those cloud instances, it seems really similar to me to the way that we just deployed the rollup. Like we picked our stack, we picked the DA layer, and yeah. So
Yeah,
I guess
works like magic. Yeah.
pretty cool to me. So hopefully people in the chat or people watching find it interesting. And yeah,
Yeah,
I guess like the thing we didn't explore too much is that you can also run this on your own. And if you want to do that, just visit the docs.
and is it fair to say that, let's say somebody wants to experiment really fast, maybe they don't want to get to Conway or Caldera step yet, but they want to have an existing test net. Are these resources available to them?
Yeah, for sure. They're also going to be found in the docs. That's the easiest way. Or if you want to look in the slides after this, we're going to send the slides out. But we have both of the existing test nets in the deploy a rollup category on the Celestia docs. I can also drop links to those.
Yeah, there's there's the Bubs testnet, which I'm gonna drop here, and then there's the Raspberry one, yeah, which I'm gonna drop in here. This is specifically for OpenStack. We have other one for Arbitrum, but the Arbitrum workshop is happening later. So yeah.
On that note, I'm excited for Diego's workshop. I think you're gonna, if you're into the EVM, you'll find one of the two something that you can use for your project. So looking forward to see what people build.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really excited about that because it's like just fresh off the oven, like new integration happening, and there's a lot of cool things that people can build with it. And that's, I think it was announced last week as well, right? So I'm excited about that. Hopefully, if Diego has enough time, he might include stylus integration into it, but it depends on how much time he has available and stuff.
I guess with that, I think we're, unless there's any last questions, I don't think I have anything else to add.
Yeah,
So
same here.
yeah,
Any
thank you for
questions?
tuning in.
Going once. Going twice. Thank you, Josh. That was, oh yeah, let's do that. Oh, look at that. Thank you so much for your time. And this has been a really amazing workshop where people can one-click deploy a roll-up and then one-click deploy a smart contract. Easy peasy.
Yeah, just like that.
Just like that. And then there's a lot of confetti here. I don't know if I get the, oh, I got the fireworks. All right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Josh, for this amazing workshop.
You're welcome. Have a good one, everybody.